The woodlands of the Iberian Peninsula are distinct ecosystems on the Iberian Peninsula. Although the various regions are each characterized by distinct vegetation, the borders between these regions are not clearly defined, and there are some similarities across the peninsula. Origin and characteristics. The flora of the peninsula, because of biohistorical, geographical, geological, and orographic conditions, is among the richest and most varied of all European floras. Rivaled only by such countries as Greece and Italy, it is estimated that the Iberian Peninsula has more than 8,000 distinct species of plants, many of them endemic. It is now known that the Mediterranean Sea went through great changes in sea level and variations in the relative positions of the continental plates of Europe and Africa. These brought changes of climate and vegetation. The Iberian Peninsula, located on an important route between Africa and Europe, was enriched by the arrival, following the climate change, of wetland plants, thermophilic plants, xerophilic plants, orophilic plants, boreal alpine plants, and so on, many of which managed to remain, thanks to the diversity of environments that exist in the mountain ranges, and which allowed them to rise in altitude if the climate was too warm, or descend if it became too cold. The geological complexity of the majority of Iberian mountains, especially of the Cordillera Bética, Sistema Iberico, and Pyrenees, also greatly increased the number of new environments to which it was possible to adapt, resulting in today's wide variety of flora. The Euro-Siberian region. The Euro-Siberian Atlantic zone extends through northern Portugal, the Galician Massif, Cantabrian Mountains and the western and central Pyrenees. It is characterized by a humid climate which is moderated by the influence of the ocean, with somewhat cold winters and the lack of a distinct dry season. The mainland extends to the north of Portugal, the greater part of Galicia, Asturias, Cantabria, the Basque Country, northwest of Navarre, and western Pyrenees. However, its influence in the form of communities or defined species extends inwards, especially in the north and west. The vegetation is deciduous oak forest, both sessile oaks and English oaks, with European ash and hazels in the coolest and deepest soil at the bottom of the valley. The mountain layer is characterized by the presence of beeches and at times, in the Pyrenees, by silver firs. These beeches and silver firs occupy the cool slopes with shallow soil. The Mediterranean influence is felt in the presence of home oaks with bay laurel, which are situated on the warmest crests and slopes, especially above chalky soil, where the dryness becomes more pronounced. Improvement by humans has transformed much of this woodland into meadows, which conserve at their edges remnant hedgerows, cetus, of the species of the primitive forest. Clumps of thorny shrubs grow also in glades and clearings, such as the wild rose, blackberry bushes, blackthorn, hawthorn and other more or less thorny shrubs. This role can also be filled by smaller thorny plants, los peonales, and clumps of broom. The major forests in this area are beech, oak, birch, and fir. Beech forests. Beech forests are found in the mountain layer of the Iberian Euro-Siberian region from 800 to 1500 meters up. The soil is cool, as often chalky as silicious, and nearly always acidified by rain. The layer is characterized by the beech tree. The beech tree projects a deep shadow, and so its dense foliage usually excludes other woodland species. It therefore has little undergrowth. In spite of their Atlantic character, these forests reach Mongiò, in the center of the peninsula. The southernmost are at the Haida de Montejo and in the northernmost area of the province of Guadalajara, in the Parque Natural del Haida de Tierra Negra, and Somosierra Arellon. The forests seek watercourses and shade, and so their reforestation is very difficult and they are being displaced by the Pyrenean oak. The Eurasia rainforest, of some 170 square kilometers in the Navarran Pyrenees, is one of the most important beech and fir forests in Europe. Oak forests, above all of English oak, are the most common in the Atlantic zone. They represent the typical forest floor formation of basal trees, extending to an altitude of some 600 meters. In higher regions, as one ascends the mountains, they yield to beech forests. At the bottom of the valleys they are replaced by ash trees and hazel tree groves. There are two main types of oak, the English oak and the sessile oak. The latter extends furthest into the interior and highest in altitude, but plays a secondary part, in general. When the climate begins to show its continental character, these oak forests are replaced by Pyrenean oak. The land on which these oaks stood is the most altered, as it is well suited to meadows and crops. Oaks are often accompanied by chestnut trees and birches. When these forests degrade, they are taken over by thorny plants, peonales, and in the final extreme heather and gorse. The English oak would have been indigenous to a large part of the area currently occupied by pine forests and eucalyptus. Birch forests along the Atlantic coast. Birches form small enclaves or copses at the foot of rocky cliff edges or in the clearings of beech forests, on poor or acidic soils, accompanied by aspen and mountain ash. Birch may also grow in pure stands near the beech forests. In the mountainous areas on siliceous bedrock, these areas are typically of only small extent and generally quite patchy with sessile oak and trees of the genus Sorbus. Fir forests. The silver fir is found on the cool, deep-soiled slopes of the flanks of the Pyrenees, from Navarre to Montigny, forming pure fir woods or, more often, mixed forests with beech trees. The most important areas are in Lleida, with 170 square kilometers. In altitude, it extends from 700 to 1700 meters, but its main areas are localized in more humid and dark valleys. These forests are dark, with acidic soil, due to the decomposition of the needles of evergreens. At higher altitudes, they are often replaced by black pine. These spruce forests sometimes contain maples and their undergrowth is very similar to that of the beech forest. Like these, they are distinctly Euro-Iberian.